Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om. 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 Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Hari Om to everybody. Pranam, pranam. Yesterday, when we were reading Vinobaji's few words on Nirguna and Saguna Bhakti, the last portion we could not read due to paucity of time. So we will read that and get back to IQG text again. Lastly, I want to say that it is not easy to clearly distinguish between Saguna and Nirguna. What appears Saguna from the one angle may appear Nirguna from another angle. In Saguna worship, a stone idol is looked upon as a symbol of God. But it is in the mother and in the saints that divine consciousness is clearly manifest. wisdom, love, tenderness, of affection are palpable in them, conspicuous in them. Still, they are not worshipped as the idols of the Lord. Instead of serving the people full of consciousness, instead of seeing Saguna, God in them, God is seen in an inanimate stone. To see God in a stone is in a sense the height of Nirguna. It is easier to see God in the saints, the parents, the neighbors, who can be seen to have wisdom, love, or altruism. It is far more difficult to see God in a stone. Still, we worship the same stone idol. Is it not verily the form of Nirguna worship? On the other hand, one feels that if God is not to be imagined in a stone, where else can we see Him? This is most important. On the other hand, one feels that if God is not to be imagined in a stone, where else can we see Him? A stone is the most appropriate thing to become God's symbol, as it is unruffled, unmoved, peaceful, and undisturbed under any condition. Our parents, neighbors, people in general, all these have their weaknesses. You are bound to find some or the other weakness or fault in them. Hence, serving them is in a sense more difficult than worshipping a stone. To sum up, Saguna and Nirguna are complementary to each other. Saguna is easier than Nirguna. But in another sense, Nirguna is easy and Saguna is difficult. Both lead us to the same end. In the 5th chapter, it has been said that the yogi who does not get attached to karma, though he is continually engaged in action, yogi means karma yogi, and sannyasi who does all the karmas, while being apparently active, are one and the same. Similarly is the case here. Saguna state of karma and Nirguna state of sannyasa are one and the same. The Lord therefore faced the same predicament that he faced when he was asked whether yoga was better or sannyasa. Karma yoga was better or sannyasa. Finally, he replied on the basis of the comparative easiness. Otherwise, there is no difference between karma yoga and sannyasa or between saguna and nirguna. We are trying to understand this saguna nirguna because we are under the impression, or we have been under the impression, that bhakti deals with the saguna aspect, jnana deals with the nirguna aspect. So here we are trying to understand that bhakti and jnana are intertwined. The Lord says in the end, O Arjuna, you may prefer saguna or nirguna, but be a bhakta. And then he defines in the 12th chapter, who is my dearest devotee. If we go through the last 8 slokas, we will find nowhere he mentions about the traditional form of worship. It starts with Adveshta Sarvabhutanam. Everything is value, value, value. Malice towards none, compassionate towards all, friendly towards all, free from possessiveness, free from the sense of agency. Be equal in pleasure and pain. Always feel contented. He is full always. Always remembering God. Satatam yogi. Well rooted in the Atma. And finally he says, those who have surrendered everything to me, Vyomad Bhakta Samepali. So here also in the 12th chapter, Lord Krishna elaborately mentions. So who is my dearest Bhakta? But when we go back to our own life, we find worshipping an image or a photo, repeating the glories of the Jishta Devata, offering flowers, conduct a Dravya Puja or Manasa Puja, where we find, we are not seeing the image, we are not seeing the photo, we are seeing him whom we are worshipping. We first do the superimposition, avahana. He is seated within. We are superimposing him on that vigraha or photo. Then we do the puja. Everything is done. Just like when somebody, a revered person comes, what all we do? We wash his feet, we give him seat, we give him good food, Like that everything is done, and then finally he is taken back to the original source. Yathasthanam pratishtapayami. First we say avahanam dhyayami avahayami. Then we say yathasthanam pratishtapayami. So he is here to enjoy the sweetness of worshipping him. I am superimposing him on that idol and doing everything, and finally he is taken back from the photo and put back. It is excellent, it gives, whatever it may be, it gives a lot of joy. This is our base. This is our starting point. And then when we take to Bhagavad-Gita reading, and when we come to the 12th chapter, and we find nothing of this is mentioned there, then we combine what Papa has said, that while chanting Ramnam, he said, what did he say? What should be compatible with inner aspiration? Outer activity should be compatible with inner aspiration. We are chanting the name of one who is seated within, who is making me to chant, who is the omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent, subtle, mysterious power. He is behind everything, he is all in all, he is in all. So this is what when chanting the name, we are expected to go along with these thoughts. And then, during the non-chanting time, which are called the outer activities, it should be compatible with the inner aspiration. We cannot have, suppose I do prayer and then when I go out, I become selfish, I become possessive, I become arrogant. I am not bothered about somebody's sentiments or emotions. I shout at them. I don't mind wounding them for my purpose. Like that, if I do that, then Nama chanting will not become effective. So, in order to ensure that we don't slip into this thing, the Lord does not say that you should not do all these Saguna worship, but when we come to the 12th chapter, all human values, spiritual values, social values, they have been brought out in beautiful 7 verses. So we get a clear picture. Gandhiji gave a lot of importance for the 12th chapter, and he started the Gita commentary not from first chapter, first to 12th chapter. Here also Vinobaji says everybody should go through it and read it every day. He says, then the Lord described the characteristics attributed to Bhakta. The nectar may be sweet, but we have never tasted it. The verses describing the Bhakta's attributes, however, have a rare sweetness that we can experience directly. There is no need for any imagination. Like the verses describing the attributes of Sthita Prajna, these verses too should be read daily, reflected upon, ruminated over. We should try to imbibe these attributes bit by bit and go on enriching our life. In this way, life should be gradually led towards the Lord. So there is we can attribute. He says, Mayarpida manobuddhihi yomad bhakta samepya. Mayarpida manobuddhihi. Mind and intellect you have surrendered up to me. Such a bhakta is dear to me. Throughout the 7 worlds, we will never find anything that we offer. We call it as puja. Normally we understand as bhakti. It is purely jnanottara bhakti. Why Papa wanted this to be again and again and again hammered on? It is because it is that one which is there throughout these 37 chapters. He is seeing God everywhere. At the same time, he is aware that he is the mysterious, subtle and mysterious power. That pervades and sustains the whole universe. Birthless and deathless is he. He is present in all things and in all creatures who only appear as separate entities due to their ever-changing forms. To wake up from this illusion of forms is to realize at once the unity or love of Ram. Love of Ram means love of all beings, all creatures, all things in this world. Because Ram is in all is in Ram, Ram is all in all. So before IQG starts, the chapter 1 starts, Papa defines the Ram so that we should have the clarity, when we chant Ram Nam, when we go through in quest of God, because only the word though he first used great void, then everywhere he uses only Ram. And not to limit him to any particular form, Papa has put this before the first chapter. Nirguna, Nirakara, Nirvikara, Shashvata, Ananda Swarupa. But at the same time, he is seeing everybody as Ram. So this does not make him dry. So as devotees, as aspirants, as readers, we should keep on hammering this. That is why probably for the past 3-4 days, he has been motivating us to dwell on this Jnanottara Bhakti aspect. Now let us go back to In Quest of God. Anybody would like to share any thoughts before we go to chapter number 23?
Swamiji,
Ah.
Ram is in all in all. That is like Ram is in all in all. Ram is in all in all.
Many a time Papa used to bring, the simile of ornaments and the gold. The ornaments have necklace, ring, what else? Bangles. They are all different, different things. But in every ornament, what is it that is there? Only gold and gold alone. So gold is all in all there.
So like that.
There may be so many pots made out of mud, but looking at the pot, we may say this is a beautiful, big one, small one. So many distinctions will be there. But the essential thing, mud is there, and mud is all in all there. So similarly, He is in us, He is in everybody. He is in the form of life force, He is in the form of awareness, He is in the form of intelligence, He is in the form of Sat, He is in the form of Chit, He is in the form of Anand. So that is our sadhakas. Sadhaka's main job is, when this question comes, so far we have only seen as separate. To realize this great truth, we through ignorance feel as separate individuals. We are not seeing all in all. We are not seeing Ram. But here Papa says, we who through ignorance feel as separate individuals should submit ourselves to the will and working of the infinite power Ram, who is one and all-pervading. So that means that which is the power behind me. Now we are reading. This is possible because the life force is there, the awareness is there. Otherwise we will not be able to. So while reading as an individual, the individual is supposed to think about it. While seeing an individual, he is supposed to think about it. So we as sadhakas or devotees are struggling to, that is why this question came. What you raised is a very relevant question, because that is the one which is really pestering us. In spite of reading, in spite of doing Ramnam, in spite of having Satsang, in spite of going to various places, in spite of seeing Mahatmas, still we feel we are separate individuals. We don't see the common denominator, Ram, God. So we are all struggling to do that. This we have to keep on reminding. The doubts will come even after hearing the whole thing, the doubt will come, because we are not clear. So our struggle is only to get clarity. So every now and then we have to keep on answering this. You are all in all. I have accepted it intellectually. I have faith in your words. You have taught it through my spiritual preceptor. I am 100% convinced about it. But still, when I move out, when I deal with men and matters, when I transact with the world outside, When I deal as a family being, a professional being, or a social being, I am there. You are not there. Why are you hiding? Why are you not making me aware? So this we have to keep on. That is why Papa said crying, crying, pleading, appealing, all these methods we have to employ. There is no way, otherwise he has to reveal himself in us. We have got some limitation. He gave us a long rope to live as an individual, and one fine morning he took us to a spiritual preceptor who made us aware that he is within us. And then we try, we fail, we try, we fail, we try, we fail. So the hammering is going on. We have to keep on asking. That is why we are every now and then he is prompting us to read this O Ram, the truth, the love, the goal of human perfection. All hail, all hail. Because this is the quintessence of the entire realization of God. In such a simple word, because he doesn't use any traditional words. Aham Brahmasmi or something like that, no. Or the four Mahavakyas, Prajnanam Brahma, Ayamatma Brahma, Tattvamasi, Aham Brahma. All these things he doesn't repeat. He is talking to us so that we can understand this language. To strive to approach and understand Ram is to recede from the world of vanishing forms, because Ram is the only truth, the only reality. Ram is a subtle and mysterious power that pervades and sustains the whole universe. Here also, he has put us in a very, very difficult position. Rest of the things we can understand because it is an object. Here it is not possible. In the case of electricity, it is also not palpable. It cannot be brought and shown. This is electricity. Like this is the mic. This is the laptop. This is the mobile phone. Like that we cannot show this is electricity. But electricity, the presence of electricity can be felt only through the gadgets. Similarly, Ram is like that mysterious power. He is like that electric power. And then he can be seen only through his creation. Instead of gadgets, he is his creation. That is why Papa said, so that we will understand, to serve the creation is to serve the Creator. To love the creation is to love the Creator. He put it in a simple word: to love all is the true bhakti of God. To serve all is the real worship of God. All those things we have understood. Still we are separate, So we have to keep on reading the first page, contemplate, and then pray to him. No other way. The heart's cry. Even these satsangs have been facilitated only to develop this sort of attitude, to cry, to appeal, to plead. Somehow you make me aware. Enough is enough. I am convinced. But the moment I sit, again the individual is only there. My rights and wrongs, my likes and dislikes, everything is there. To a certain extent I've been able to control, that's all. I would have been able to accommodate somebody's ways of approach towards me. I may not be shouting back. Some facets of values would have been there in me now, but I am nowhere near the other one, ultimate one. I don't want to satisfy myself. You provided me with the various opportunities to meet the Mahatmas who have scaled the heights. You took me to various places where those Mahatmas lived. You made me to undergo so many disciplines. Everything has been gone through or are being going through. But where am I now? Still you are separate. Still I don't see you in other creation. The jnana part has not completely done its work in me. Because when we go through the God experience, when he talks about Jnanottara Bhakti in 3-4 places, he gives importance for the jnana aspect. Jnanottara Bhakti, Jnana should be the base according to Papa. And then the bhakti should come. It should culminate in bhakti. Otherwise we get stuck up somewhere, in between. We may be leading a sattvic life, we may be having a few wants. For all practical purposes, we may be trying to live as Lord Krishna said in 12th chapter. But still, only that person will know whether he has been able to see the common denominator in everybody. But this word, it keeps on coming back to all of us. To realize this great truth, we who through ignorance feel as separate individuals, this word, should submit ourselves to the will and working of the infinite power. That infinite love Ram, who is one and all pervading. By a complete surrender to the will of Ram, we lose consciousness of the body, which keeps us aloof from him, and find ourselves in a state of complete identification, union with him, with Ram, who is in us and everywhere around us. Anything else before we go to 23? Chapter number 23. It's a long time we have not opened the book IQG now. Okay, we take it that nothing more. Though so many things are there, we have to contemplate, we have to make it a reality, that's all. So we now move to 23. God never punishes. It's fairly a long chapter, so we are not reading. Papa was with Mahadev Prasad, and somehow, God made Papa to hear about Kedarnath, Badrinath. So naturally, he took it. That Ram prompted and the resolution was sealed that he should visit these shrines, however difficult the path that led to them. His health condition was so bad. He was in Jhansi. Jhansi to Himalayas is quite a long journey. So everybody said, please. So here Ram not only gave, here Papa says, there is a dialogue again addressing Ram. Ram has given his fiat and Ramdas obeys, placing full trust in him. The burden is on Ram to see that he is taken care of. Even if his body were to drop off at the will of Ram, he would not grumble. He will then be Ram's entirely. Go he must. So Ramkinger promised to, immediately he was prompted to take him, and he wanted some days. some more days for the request of these friends. And then some other incidents in connection with this has to be narrated. So he was lodged in a mandir. The Pandaji was very, very loving. The way in which he was treating Papa, just like a mother. Then he happened to, during his midday walk, he felt thirsty and he went. He discovered mothers were drawing water. He went, requested them to give some water. Then they said, I am a Muslim and you being a Hindu monk, it is not proper that you should accept. Immediately, every time Ram tests. Ram provides guidance through Swadhyaya and Satsang, which is stored in our memory. At the appropriate time when we experience some situations, he wanted to see whether Papa would connect these teachings with events and conversations and consider to be his guidance. This is one of the points, It's not a casual thing. Normally we say, he made a comment about it. No, Papa doesn't treat it as casual. When somebody made a reference about Himalayan journey, he feels that Ram facilitated it to give this idea into the mind of Ramdas. He is not treating it as a casual conversation between A and B. And then Ram again tests through the same friends that his body is weak, he should not undertake something like that, to check up whether he is persevering, whether his surrender to him is total. Finally, he reveals, if it is Ram's command, the onus is on Ram. Trust in him means the command of Ram, whether there were willingness to even give up the body. Papa passed the test. Now and then Ram come to protect Ramdas through different forms. Does he see that it is Ram doing it or attributing to that individual? This is what all of us do. We treat it from the individual level. Here the Panda, he said, observing one day Pandaji, who was treating him as a child, warned him thus, "Look here, Maharaj, you are every day going out at midday and wandering about in the hot sun. Your head, which is clean shaven, is always uncovered. If you are obstinate, I shall have to lock you up in the temple before I go out." With this threat, an indication of his great love for Ramdas. He would press him to sleep in the afternoon and would not leave the mandir for midday meals until he saw Ramdas sleep. "O Ram, how kind thou art." He is not seeing the individual. Normally, when somebody is loving towards us, when somebody is compassionate towards us, when somebody is accommodating our request, we develop our gratitude. We only see at the individual level. These are all some of the tips he is giving, how to see the common denominator in everybody. Though Pandaji was giving this, he was seeing Ram. "O Ram, how kind thou art." Some tips for all of us. Even while we reciprocate at the individual level, at our heart we should feel it is the all-loving God who has done through him. This is another point. Repeatedly, Ram was testing whether Ram would hold on to the distinctions of caste and creed in his mind. Every now and then, the same thing had happened earlier also. So Ram wanted to test and to confirm, yes, we can give 100 marks, Not 80, 90, 95, 96, 97 like that, 100. Because previously also he was able to have the same, now also he was. By watching the way the water was given, does Papa observe the sentiments of the lady who is trying to ensure that she does not touch? She drew the water, and from the vessel itself she was pouring. It shows how meticulous the lady was, Though he was able to, he did not feel bad, or he did not feel otherwise to receive the water from her hands. That lady had the magnanimity, or what you call the generosity, or God gave that generosity in her. Even though he has said so, I should ensure that he is a Hindu monk to be revered, so I should not touch the water. Today morning we were sharing with somebody, yesterday. When we were studying, in our class, only 2 or 3 people were pure vegetarians, 3 or 4 people. Rest of them they may take non-vegetarian also. But when we open, during the lunchtime when we open, none of them will come and sit with us. Not that we ask them not to. Each one was respecting their sentiments, Nobody was saying this is right, that is right, this is wrong. No. Each one was respecting their sentiment. That is their broad-mindedness, When we read this, we remember them with gratitude, with respect. Though they don't say in so many words, there was a time when each one was respecting the sentiments of others. There the question of right and wrong does not come, to accommodate them. That is, there is a broadness, There is a broadness in their heart. Their life, rights and wrong, they are not insisting on somebody else. So here also the lady was ensuring that she doesn't touch the water. The mother was strangely surprised, washed the water pot thoroughly, and drawing water afresh, poured it out in the hollow of his hands, and he drank as much as water as he wanted. That's another point. There are so many points. There may be some more. Ram wanted to see whether Ramdas had understood that Ram is best understood through silence. There was a question, Normally, when we are talking about spirituality, talking about God, and when we interact with others, there is bound to be, God will see to it that there is somebody there who does not subscribe to our views. For the sake of argument, God will make them to put up something and watch us. The same thing happened here. And here one very, very important thing Papa says. Somebody asked, who are you? Then somebody said, the other man, as Papa said, I am Ramdas. Then he said, no, you speak a lie here. You are Ram himself. When you declare you are Ramdas, you do not know what you say. God is everywhere and in everything. He is in you, and so you are. He confessed it right away. True, dear friend, God is everywhere, replied Ramdas. But at the same time, it must be noted that God is one. And when He is in you and everywhere around you, may I humbly ask you whom you are putting this question? After reflecting for a time, the friend was driven to say, well, I have put the question to myself. This reply was given as a desperate attempt to reconcile his first contention. If you would say that the question was put to Ramdas, there was a clear sense of duality accepted by the disputant himself, I and you. As a matter of fact, put in Ramdas, Ram does not speak. The moment he speaks, he is not Ram. Speech creates always a sense of duality, the speaker and the man spoken to. Ram is one and indivisible. It is sheer ignorance for a man whose ego is a great obstruction for his complete realization of the oneness of God to say that he is God. The moment he speaks, he is not Ram. If you only take out that, lot of confusion will take place. But Papa himself clarifies it beautifully. So even in the non-dual, the duality is there. Even in the dual, non-dual is there. No? Though he is the all-pervading, there is duality. He says, speech creates always a sense of duality, the speaker and the man spoken to. Ram is one and indivisible. So every now and then Ram is testing him whether he got stabilized, grounded in that all-pervading nature of Ram, and at the same time seeing him in the varied manifestation. This is the most important thing. To see that he is the common denominator in everybody, but at the same time to accept the varied manifestation that separates one creation from the another. Whether he has got the clarity, Ram puts him to test. Then again another schoolmaster came and he started highlighting about the Shuddhi movement. No? Shuddhi movement set on foot by Swami Shraddhanandaji. Ramdas was clearly opposed to this movement, as he is in fact opposed to every effort on the part of anybody to create differences in religious faith. That all faiths lead to the same goal is a most beautiful and convincing truth. At the close of the discussion, the friend exceeded the limits of decent talk. However, Ramdas was cooled and collected by the grace of Ram. At parting, he assured the friend that he loved him most dearly in spite of any objectionable words used by him. When someone differs with us, do we develop hatred or anger? Or to see it as a test? And we know what happened. Next day, about the same time, this friend came again in a great hurry. He could scarcely talk. He could only whisper. His throat was choked up. His condition was pitiable. "Oh Maharaj," he exclaimed, falling at the feet of Ramdas, "God has punished your slave for having used rough words yesterday. See how my throat is choked. I cannot even speak out properly." And then Papa says, "Oh friend, Ramdas is really sorry to hear this. But be assured of this, God never punishes." The other man said, "God has punished your slave." No? God never punishes. God is love and is always kind. Our own doubts are our enemies and create a lot of mischief. The so-called evil is our own making. At once pulling out Ramdas's right hand, the friend rubbed the palm on his throat, and strange to say, his throat cleared, and he began to talk more clearly, and in a few minutes he was all right. "Behold, Maharaj, how powerful you are," he cried exultantly. "You make a mistake, dear friend," replied Ramdas. "Ramdas is a poor slave of Ram, possessing no powers at all. Your faith alone has cured you and nothing else." From this time onward, the friend became very much attached to him. "O Ram, thy ways are so wonderful," that Ramdas gets utterly bewildered at times. Why are you behaving like this? No? We see every time he is not looking from the individual standpoint. This is very important. Though that is the stepping stone, as spiritual aspirants or as bhaktas, Papa is showing us you always try to connect up with the higher one, not at the individual level. Even when the other person says, he knows it is only his faith. There is a beautiful bhajan, no? You must have many a time heard this. Moko Kaha of Kabir. He rules out everything and lastly he says.
Yes, Swamiji.
Eh?
Moko kaha dhunde
Last line.
I don't remember.
I am not here, I am not there, I am not here, I am not there. Finally he says, I am there in the form of Vishwas. No? Faith. It's a beautiful bhajan. So here he says, your faith alone has cured you and nothing else. Ram wanted to see whether Ramdas would take credit for the relief received by the school teacher. Ram was placing before, see, every time we try to see Ram is testing Ramdas, Ram is testing. So that later on slowly we put ourselves in Papa's place and whatever he has been doing in our life is also a test. In spite of the fact that we have failed, in our what is called progress report. All are with red. I don't know now that the practice is there. In our days it was there. In the mark list, if it is below 35, the red mark will be there. Though many of us have only this red mark, still Ram, who is seated within, does not lose faith in us. And he facilitates so many things. At least one day we will realize that he is testing, so we have to pass. This In Quest of God in-depth study is such an opportunity given to all of us, because by its in-depth study, we are trying to now slowly realize that whatever experiences that we are confronted with in our day-to-day life, they are nothing but the test given to us, meted out to us by the indwelling and all-pervading reality. Intellectually now we all understand, but the moment we go out of the hall, again we are back to square one. But repeatedly when we hear, probably, we may slowly start accepting at least one or two as tests and other as incidents or happenings. And Papa will be happy with that. At least you have started accepting now. So in Quest of God, when we went through the whole thing with this aspect, we could find about more than nearly, Shraddha will be able to say clearly, more than 100 or 150 tests were there. Every chapter we go through that with that perspective. And then we find, here is a test, is a test. So by writing like this, we are not trying to list out the test given to Papa by Ram, but writing this by ourselves, observing this as a test, we slowly try to understand that his test is on us. And the moment we feel that it is his test, we are game. Because the individual is removed, the situation is removed, the object is removed, and only he is there. From 3rd chapter onwards up to this 23, now if you go through on a review, we will find how many times, he is acknowledging, "Oh Ram, how loving you are. Oh Ram, you have provided this. Oh Ram," like that, he keeps on telling. We take it as a test given to him. That is why he is made to repeat these words. Even at this particular experience, he says, "O Ram. O Ram, thy ways are so wonderful that Ramdas gets utterly bewildered at times. And then the friends at Jhansi, whom he met daily in that city, were all very charitable in disposition, especially, very important point now, especially were they kind and hospitable to sadhus. When he was living with Mahadev Prasad, he found his friend a pattern of charity and humility. Mahadev would never send away a hungry man from his door without feeding him. He would forego his own meal to satisfy a hungry man. His heart was so soft and so tender. Mahadev's humility was exemplary. Ram certainly gave Ramdas. Here again you see that, no? Ram certainly gave Ramdas the society of this friend so that he might know what true charity and humility meant in actual practice. In day-to-day life, Again he brings the Ram dimension, not the individual dimension. Ram certainly gave Ramdas the society of this friend so that he might know what true charity and humility mean in actual practice. Ramkinkar, the young friend who accompanied him on his pilgrimage to the Himalayas, made it a rule to utilize about 10% of his salary for charity. This is really a beautiful hint for all. While speaking of charity, the ideal of charity followed by the householder in North India is indeed very noble and lofty. The ideal of the ancients, that the householder has no right to exist as such if he does not share his food every day with a hungry man of no means, such as a beggar or a sadhu. In fact, it is declared that a man assumes grihasthashrama with the specific object of carrying out this noble ideal. There are found some grihasthas who would not wait for a guest to turn up, but would go seeking for one in the streets, in temples, or in dharmshalas. Such is the piety of the householders. Ramdas's experience in southern India was also full of incidents in which charity played a most laudable part. In fact, the whole of India is a great land of charity. So through that he is giving us a hint, Here, he is making some food for thought for us. By making Ramdas witness the actions of Mahadev Prasad and Ramkinkar, Ram was seeing whether Ramdas was becoming aware that an individual exists because of the society, or an individual cannot exist without the support of society. That is how the seva comes, It is not we become charitable. God gives us an opportunity to share whatever we have with others. Initially, it may be from the individual standpoint, but later on we realize that God has chosen me, The field we cannot create, a hungry man we cannot create, but a hungry man comes to our doorstep. And he at the same time kindles within us in the form of compassion to give him the food. And the food is also provided, food. We ensure that something is there. We immediately rush up and see what is there. So instead of treating it as a charitable act at the individual level, Papa is making us to think that we are part and parcel of the society. So if somebody is suffering, if we are really on the spiritual path, we should feel the suffering as our own suffering. That is why, and in one instance, Papa said, when you are compassionate, you play the part of God. When you are compassionate, you play the part of God. Because compassion is, you feel saha anubhuti, in Malayalam we say. The same feeling we have in others. If I am hungry, how will I feel? No. The same feeling comes when I see a hungry man. That is what is called compassion, and that drives me to do something, to part with something I have. Even in the papers we will find, somebody jumps or something. Somebody slips and they jump either in a well or in an ocean. Immediately somebody forgetting about everything, they also jump to save him. They become one, The absence of otherness in one form is called compassion. So we now become aware that the hungry man came to our doorstep because God provided me an opportunity to know what compassion is. Otherwise, how will I know? It may be in the text, I may be reading the text, and by reading the text, I will not develop compassion. Even if I read books and books and books on compassion, it will not, because it is not coming from our intellectual knowledge. It is purely coming from the seat of feelings. So, in the last chapter, Papa is now bringing out this point so that all of us will start thinking about it. There may be many incidents where God is providing us so many opportunities to share whatever we have. And even at times when we don't have, He makes us to feel, something should be done. We don't normally be attributed to individual to situation, individual to an object. But here, compassion elevates us, it makes us to graduate to a higher level. After the act is done only, you realize that you had compassion in your heart. Or somebody says you are so compassionate. As a devotee, a true devotee, we don't take credit of it because it is God. As an individual, no. Because He is releasing His attributes through us to make us know that He is within us in the form of compassion. So these 23 chapters, chapter number 23, there are about 10 or 11 points. How Ram has been testing every moment, that whether we are viewing it from the individual angle, some are positive, some are, we have labeled it as negative. But in both cases, it is a test meted out to us by Him. The test is not given to harass us, it is not to demotivate us, but it is only to make us more and more perfect. And He uses Papa now, and He made him to write this book. He gave us the intense desire to make an in-depth study. When we see everything in that chronological order, we find God has been trying in spite of our indifference. Unknowingly, we are indifferent to whatever He prompts within. In spite of our indifference, God keeps on trying with us to make us pure. So even this 23, chapter number 23, gives us more than 10 or 11 points by which the all-merciful Lord of the universe, who is seated within us, who is seated in everybody, is trying to make us go forward. So let us all try to feel that, yes, He is holding our hand and He is telling us, through the words of Papa, He is telling us that He is there with you always. And only to make you aware, He is putting you on various tests. Let us all try to remember, keep this in our mind. And of course, we need His Grace, 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 nothing but grace. And it should come from the bottom of the heart. So we try to plead, to appeal, to cry, to weep, in whatever form, to pester him. Okay. Somehow. You are within me, make me realize your presence. Please, please, please. My baggage is so full, I am unable to unload it. You should help me to unload it by making me aware that you are there, not my so-called intelligence, not my so-called experience that is guiding me or leading me. You are there, you are there, you are there. Why don't you please give me one chance? You know? Like that we develop that prayer of our own in our own language, a pleading in our own language, and then try to eke out the maximum benefit out of it. Hari Om. Anybody who would like to share anything on tomorrow, we can have it. Now already it is 5:05. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram
Hari Om Swamiji, Pranam.
Hari Om, Hari Om.